listening to A Scary State, and this week we're talking about Montana. So, Lauren.
Yes, Kenzie?
Let's get scary.
Okay, I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
You have 5 fingers.
Yes, I do.
If you could have 5 liquids come out of these fingers, 1 for each finger, what liquids would you choose? They come out at room temperature.
Ew.
But you can add ice if you need to. Okay. But what 5 liquids would you pick?
Water, Diet Coke, juice, probably apple juice.
Oh, okay.
Wine.
Which wine? Red, white, what kind?
White, Pinot Grigio.
Okay.
So it's a safe bet.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's Sprite.
Beautiful options.
What about you?
Water.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Oh, fuck. That's a good one. Shit. I can't believe it. Okay. Can I change one of mine?
One of yours. Which one?
The Sprite to make coffee.
Also juice.
What kind of juice?
Like a fruit juice.
Okay.
But like on the, not like a red fruit juice, but like, the purple like V8 fruit juices.
Okay.
One of those ones.
Okay.
An espresso martini.
Ah.
I freaking love those. And then I think I would do a white wine.
Nice.
Like a Pinot Grigio as well.
Yeah.
Or like one of those. Like, I feel like those are good wines. Or a sangria. I was thinking a sangria too.
Could you do all liquids at once?
Yeah. Because one of my coworkers was like, I would do vodka in this finger, or no, rum in this finger and Jack in this finger and go to make a Jack Coke.
Nice. That's smart.
But then we had some people who were like, oh, I'd put gasoline. And I was like, oh, that's smart. Free gas
well,
forever.
wait a minute.
And then we had another coworker who was like, oh, I would do soy sauce. And I was like, condiments, genius.
But that's not a drink. You said drinks.
I said liquid.
Oh. That's dumb. That's stupid.
But yeah, we had quite the discussions at work about this. And then it transformed into, okay, you have your summer hand and your winter hand. What are your summer hand drinks? What are your winter hand drinks?
Huh.
Because we'd have to have an orange crush in there somewhere.
Sure.
I'd want a red wine for the winter side.
Yeah.
Red sangria, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. Water, Diet Coke, coffee, white wine. And I don't remember what my other one was. Juice.
Yeah, juice.
Yeah. Although, I'm not much of a drinker. So, I
Mackenzie.
drink for occasions, and then it's excessive for that one occasion.
How many times on the podcast have you said, I'm hungover today?
I know, as I said this, as I'm currently
as you're drinking wine. I'm not much of a drinker. Let me take a sip.
If I had to choose, I would be okay with not drinking.
Okay.
And just doing other things.
Okay.
Because other things don't make you feel icky the next day. The older I get, I like drinking in the moment. I hate drinking afterwards.
Yeah.
It's just like it almost puts a little bit of a downer on the drinking because I know how hungover I'm going to be.
And it's also like, as you get older, it just hits so different.
It's 2 days at least.
Yes. And mine are like the fun hangovers where you wake up feeling invincible. You're like, I feel great.
Yeah.
And then as the day goes on, you're like, oh my God, I feel awful.
Yeah. And you can never sleep it off because your body won't let you sleep in.
No.
So rude.
No. And then my stomach hurts and I can't sleep. It's just, ugh.
Yeah.
All around awful.
Terrible.
Except I haven't had anything to drink in a while. And I was like looking at old pictures of us drinking and I was like, oh, that beer looks so good.
Well.
No, because then we're trying, and so they say you have better chances if you don't drink.
Well, it's, your problem is that you have to always do something to the maximum. You follow the rules to a T.
Thank you, yes. It helps that I have to do that as well in my job, is follow the rules to a T.
No, don't even. You've been like that our whole lives.
So it's fitting that I went into this profession where I have to follow the rules to a T.
You've been like this forever.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. You're not.
That's okay. As I take my sip of wine.
And as I take my sip of Spindrift. All right, should we jump into Montana?
Yeah. Nothing about Hannah, though. Hannah Montana.
Oh, I was like, Montana?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have Hannah in here.
She wasn't even from Montana.
They
She's
just
from
needed a
Tennessee.
catchy rhyme.
What rhymes with Tennessee?
I was just trying to think. Not Bennessee. Hennessy. Hennessy, Tennessee. Tennessee, Hennessy. But then it's a kid's show, so that wouldn't work.
You know. That'd be a great name for like a rapper from Tennessee.
It would be, actually. If you guys want to use that name, just contact us. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, trademark right now.
Yeah, TM.
What's the circle thingy? The C with a circle. Copyright?
Yeah.
Circle. C circle. C circle.
C.
C.
All right.
Copyright.
Let's start in the wild 1860s, shall we? Gold had just been discovered in the Montana Territory, and boom towns like Bannock and Virginia City. We've talked about Virginia City a lot.
So I think this was when it was like a territory.
Okay.
And Utah was part of that.
Okay. That would make sense.
Because unless there's also a Virginia City, Montana, which is possible.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
So these boom towns sprang up or boomed overnight. But with wealth came lawlessness, and formal law enforcement was nearly non-existent. Locals took justice into their own hands by forming a group known as the Montana Vigilantes. Their most famous or infamous act was the hanging of Henry Plummer, the sheriff of Bannock, in 1864. The Vigilantes accused Plummer of secretly leading a gang called the Innocents, responsible for robbing and murdering travelers. He and more than 20 suspected members were lynched, many without trial, like without due process.
Yes.
Whether they were true criminals or simply victims of frontier paranoia, the Montana Vigilantes became a symbol of brutal justice in a lawless land, and their legacy still lingers in ghost towns and whispered rumors across the state.
So, when I was looking this stuff up, apparently in Montana, now maybe it was in a specific city, but if it is, I don't remember what that was. They have Vigilante Day, and it's like the kids get off of school.
Oh, wow.
And they essentially celebrate these vigilantes. And I really liked this person's article because it was basically like, no, don't do that, because majority of the people that they vigilanted, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
were most likely innocent.
Yeah.
A lot of them were immigrants, people of color, and this is celebrated with children. And it has like some floats used to be like the hanging tree.
Oh my God.
Or brothels, things like that. And it's just like, we have the article in our notes, but I really like the way that they worded about why it's important to truly understand what our history is and where it comes from, and to acknowledge that and learn what our past is. And not celebrate things that don't actually deserve to be celebrated.
Yeah.
You know, like this vigilante justice, which really, in the grand scheme of things, was more injustice than it was justice.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked the blog that they wrote.
Oh, well, yeah, go look at our show
Works
notes.
Cited, yeah.
And then I'll have our Works Cited in there. During the Great Depression, Montana became home to one of the largest engineering projects in U.S. history, the Fort Peck Dam. It was a symbol of progress and hope, but also danger and death. Thousands of workers lived in camps across the site, building the massive earth-filled dam in grueling conditions. Official records say 60 workers died, but rumors suggest that number is much higher. Some claim that during landslides or sudden cave-ins, workers were buried alive and their bodies were never recovered.
Not claim, it is true, because they found some of them.
Oh, good.
But some are entombed in, like, I think, like, somewhere between 6 and 8.
Like that many people?
Yeah,
Oh.
or like entombed in the dam.
Sealed forever within the structure itself.
Yep.
Locals say strange things happen near the dam: ghost sightings, eerie voices, and unexplained electrical failures. The government denies the rumors, of course, but those who spent time around Fort Peck aren't so sure the dead are truly at rest. And like, probably not.
That's where the idea of maybe people being buried in
the Hoover Dam.
But this is legit. This one's
the real one.
Actually, people that were buried. I don't think they were buried alive. Actually, I can't say that because I don't know.
Hopefully they weren't buried alive.
Right. But there are actual like bodies of people that were stuck.
Ooh. Yeah, don't love that.
Yeah.
Anaconda wasn't just any mining town.
Anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hon.
So Anaconda was one of the most industrialized cities in the West. Founded in the 1880s by copper magnate Marcus Daly, Anaconda was home to the world's largest smelter, churning out copper at the expense of human health and the environment. The town earned the nickname Smelter City, but what came with that was a constant haze of arsenic and sulfuric smoke that blanketed the area. Nice. Workers suffered horrific respiratory problems, cancers, and early death. Families lost breadwinners, and some neighborhoods were deemed unsafe to live in due to contamination. Today, Anaconda still carries the scars of its smelting days. Cleanup efforts have been extensive, but the dark legacy of industry still haunts its soils and its stories.
There's a some sort of lake that is toxic, and I forget what the chemical is that's in there. But because of, like, some of the mining stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
it seeped into this lake, and, like, you could die if you went into it.
I need you to find out more about that because
meant
that
to
sounds fascinating.
I meant to include it, and then I forgot.
Mackenzie.
I'm sorry. Again, if you click on one of the links from our works cited from our show notes, you'll find it.
Yeah, but I want you to tell me about it.
Well, then I can go back and look.
Okay. One of the most tragic and little-known events in Montana's past is the Maria's Massacre of 1870. Under the command of U.S. Army Major Eugene Baker, troops attacked a peaceful camp of Piegan Blackfeet among the Marias River. More than 200 Native Americans were slaughtered, most of them women, children, and the elderly. The Army had mistakenly targeted the wrong band, but the damage was done.
Oops.
This atrocity is often left out of textbooks, yet it remains a powerful symbol of the violence and betrayal suffered by Indigenous people in the West. Yeah, I bet all they said was, oops.
Oops. Oopsie daisies.
Butte, once called the richest hill on earth, has a gritty underbelly, literally.
I found it.
Oh, the lake?
The Berkeley pit is filled with highly acidic water. The Berkeley pit symbolizes the dual nature of Butte's mining legacy, transforming from America's largest open pit copper mine to an environmental catastrophe. In 1982, it closed down. After its closure, the pit filled with highly acidic, metal-contaminated water. The water continues to be a problem to this day, threatening wildlife and some residents of Butte.
So what happens if you swim in it?
I'm going to go ahead and assume you get really sick.
Scary.
So don't do that.
Yeah, don't like that. So in Butte, the Dumas brothel, opened from 1890 to 1982, operated above a maze of tunnels that linked the saloons and speakeasies. The brothel witnessed over 90 years of secrets, abuse, addiction, and death. Today, the building is said to be haunted by the spirits of former sex workers, some who died by suicide, others murdered by clients. Cold drafts, whispering voices, and the sound of high heels on empty floors are regularly reported. Visitors describe the overwhelming feeling of being watched, and many say a particular room on the second floor is so oppressive that people refuse to step inside.
Dun, dun, dun.
No discussion of Montana's dark history would be complete without the Battle of Little Bighorn.
The one that I keep referring to.
Yes, finally we have found it.
Finally, we have found it. This is what I've been talking about.
In Montana.
In Montana. This is the one that, like, they tried to make it seem like the whites were the victims, but they weren't. Continue.
So this was one of the most iconic and tragic clashes in American history. On June 25th, 1876, Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer led the 7th Cavalry into what he thought would be an easy victory over a group of Native American tribes along the Little Bighorn River. Instead, he found himself outnumbered and outmaneuvered by a united force of Lakota Sioux, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors led by Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and other powerful leaders.
See, great names.
Custer and more than 260 of his men were killed in what would later be called Custer's Last Stand. Oh. While the U.S. public initially viewed it as a humiliating defeat, for Native tribes it was a fierce act of resistance, a final, momentous stand to protect their lands and way of life. But victory was short-lived. In the years that followed, the U.S. government cracked down even harder, pushing Indigenous people onto reservations and breaking treaties. The hills of Little Bighorn became a symbol, not just of bloodshed, but of betrayal, bravery, and a culture fighting for survival. Today, the battlefield remains eerily quiet, marked by white gravestones and red warrior markers, reminders that history isn't just written by the victors, but also by those who refuse to be forgotten.
Hell yeah. You okay?
The U.S. just sucks. Like, there's so many dark things.
Yeah, it's there's never any shortage. And it's different places have different things,
Yeah. I mean, we're not saying Virginia's perfect either, because we're not.
No. I will say that since being kind of in the western side, there's a lot more with Native American stuff.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But every single state, every single one, even the ones in the north, all have history of being problematic, racist, whatever,
Yeah.
has something, whether it's massacring towns, whether it's segregation, whether it's Jim Crow law. I'm terrified when we get to the southern states.
Ooh, speaking of, Joe and I just recently watched Sinners. We saw it on Easter, which I thought was really ironic. We didn't celebrate Easter. No, we went to go see Sinners.
Nice.
But it's about Mississippi in the like 1920s, 1930s time, and it's about vampires.
Right.
It's so good.
Is it scary?
There were like 2 jump scares, but jump scares not from things scary, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But it was so good.
I've heard good things about it.
If you want to see it in theaters, I will
No.
go again.
No.
It was so good.
Things come out so quickly on streaming that
That's true.
like people. No. When I say people, I mean celebrities. Celebrities are saying this, which makes sense because they probably get more money when movies go to theaters than versus when they go to streaming. Howsoever, I don't miss movie theaters.
Oh, I do. I like movie theaters.
I don't miss that experience.
Oh, I like the experience of movie theaters.
I love being on my couch in my home, eating my snacks.
Oh, but some movies need to be seen in the theater. Like that one was a great one to see in theaters. And if you do go see it, there is a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. So you have to stay for both. I don't know, because I saw Wicked in theaters and I was very happy about it. I saw it twice in theaters. I would see this again. When I went to go see Scream, oh my God, like Scream 5, I think. I was laughing so hard because of the people in the theater. Because there were like parts where like, if you haven't seen it now, it's been out for years. Ghostface is in the house chasing one of the kids. And so he would like open a cabinet, but he doesn't know Ghostface is in the house. So as he closes the cabinet, you expect Ghostface to be there. Never there. So every time the cabinet closed, people would scream and then laugh because no one's there. And so it happened throughout the whole movie and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I like the movie theater experience. Joe's a big movie person, so.
Yeah.
Okay, when it comes out to streaming, I'll watch it with you.
I can do that. Especially if it's like a nervous movie.
It is.
Yeah, I can't do that in public.
Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
So.
But yeah, when you were talking about the South, it just reminded me because you said the Jim Crow, and there was a part where they talk about Jim Crow laws in the movie.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no state is safe from dark history.
No.
It's all there.
Yep. As you will see in round 4 of this podcast.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll try to change it up, but just know if I don't include a story, that doesn't mean it wasn't because I wasn't there.
Right.
It was there. Just decided to go a different route.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Montana. There you go. Wild and reckless.
Mackenzie, what tale do you have for us?
I don't know, but I am feeling fine with this one.
Good.
Woohoo. So today we move away from murder and mayhem and focus on ghosts and ghouls.
Love it.
I will say up front, no, I will not go to this place and or eat here. So that's already covered.
Just getting that out of the way first.
We are traveling to Glacier National Park to explore the Belton Chalet.
Ooh.
And it is as fancy as it sounds.
It sounds very fancy. Any
But
chalets are
affordable.
fancy.
Affordable. I did look it up.
Ooh.
Affordable.
I went to a chateau when I was in Amsterdam.
Ew, la-di-da.
I know. We had a 5-course meal.
I bet everything was about yay big.
No, they were actually good size. We weren't hungry afterwards.
Oh, that's good.
But it was the thing where like he gave a speech in Dutch. And
Dutch.
I didn't know what they were saying. So when other people clapped, my friend and I clapped as well. And then when people laughed, my friend and I laughed as well.
Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Well, because they had just introduced like a new bubbly. And so we were there for like the release party that they were having.
Oh.
I know. Didn't understand a single thing that was being said.
Yeah.
So we were just like, oh, I bet this is a great speech.
I'm sure you did excellent.
Thank you. So we would just, everyone's clapping. We're like,
Yeah. Yeah, follow the lead. That's good. The Belton Chalet is part of a group of historic buildings in West Glacier, Montana, near the western entrance of Glacier National Park. The buildings were constructed between 1910 and 1911 by the Great Northern Railway Company, which I will be calling GN.
Okay.
The railroad traveled from St. Paul, Minnesota to Seattle, Washington, and the GN wanted to develop several hotels, roads, and trails along the vast railroad.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The Belton featured a Swiss chalet architectural style, which matched the theme of the other buildings that were part of the Glacier program. In total, the site included 5 buildings, including a dining hall and hotel facility.
Okay.
During the first decades that the chalet was open, it was operated by the Glacier Park Hotel Company. Belton was the least successful of all the Glacier facilities, most likely due to its remoteness compared to the other railway-operated hotels. By the 1930s, the chalet was only receiving intermittent use. The railway eventually sold the chalet in 1946. The hotel portion essentially stood empty for nearly 50 years, but the cafe and bar had occasional use in the old dining hall.
Oh, boy.
In 1997, the property was bought by new owners who took on a $1 million restoration project for the entire complex.
That does, like, 1 million seems like a lot, but in nowadays,
It's like nothing.
it's like nothing. Like,
Yeah.
you could do all of that with, like, $1 million.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
The newly renovated hotel reopened at the start of the summer of 1998. The building was placed on the National Historic Places in 2000.
National Historic Places.
That's what
National Register of Historic Places?
that. Yes. Okay. Because I said National Historic Landmarks, and then it made me change it to places.
Oh.
But National Historic Register Places.
Yeah.
That's not right.
National Register of Historic Places.
That.
That one.
Belton is one of those places that doesn't hide the rumors about its haunted hallways, and was even the focus of an entire chapter in Karen Stevens' 2013 book detailing paranormal activity in the park titled Glacier Ghost Stories.
Ooh.
The spooky spirits have made their presence known in the chalet for many years, making themselves known to staff and guests. The ghostly guests are said to frequent... I have a lot of alliteration in here because I was trying to make it fancy.
And alliterations we know equal fancy.
Exactly. Spooky spirits, ghostly guests,
The something ghouls that you talked about at the beginning.
ghosts and ghouls,
Yeah, ghosts and ghouls.
murder mayhem.
Yep.
Mhm.
All of it.
The ghostly guests are said to frequent room 37, but still cause trouble throughout the rest of the hotel.
Obviously, because why constrict yourself to one room?
Right. Staff acknowledge that they can't deny that the chalet's haunted history, but they also reassure that while they are tricksters, they're very friendly. They are known to make rocking chairs move by themselves, footsteps outside of doors, and the sound of bouncing balls in the middle of the night.
I think I told you, I don't know if I said it on here yet, but Jared went to stay at his friend's grandparents' house, and in the room was a rocking horse.
Oh, yeah.
And he was too scared to see it rock in the middle of the night, so he turned it on its side.
Fair. Michelle McDowell was a former front desk worker and assistant lodge manager, and she said that she had several experiences during her 7 years working at the chalet. Her most memorable encounter occurred the last year of her employment in the spring of 2017. So I know we always say, I can't find new haunted places, but this seems newly haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was manning the front desk one evening and all the guests had gone down to dinner. She decided to take the opportunity to update the information books in each room with the latest restaurant menus and set about retrieving the volumes.
Wow.
As she made her way in and out of the main lodge rooms, she recalled using a key since the chamber doors didn't lock automatically. When the new pages were in place, McDowell made her way back upstairs to redistribute them. But when she got to room 37, she found the door was locked. She told Daily Interlake in 2019, quote, "There's no way for the door to lock without the key. It's not like it can just slam shut. I looked up and down the hall and said, 'Hey, Bob, it's just me.' Honestly, I laughed out loud to myself. I'll be darned. He finally got me." Belton Bob is the most well-known apparition at the lodge and is known for pranking guests. He has stolen keys and or turned on faucets, and he has been described by witnesses as a man wearing a tall hat and coattails.
See, okay. At this one, he's known as like this fun prankster ghost. Oh, fun. But other places that we've talked about, it's like the spookiest thing when the faucet's turned on, or when the keys are taken, or you see the hat man.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, God. Okay.
The theory is that Bob blah, blah, blah.
It was different than the other ones.
The theory is that Bob once traveled to the area by the railroad, which was bolstered by the reports of Bob's ghost lurking around the train depot in West Glacier. The train depot is only about a 3-minute walk from the chalet. The Chalet.
The chalet.
Noreen Hansen, a former manager, told Daily Interlake, quote, "We call him Belton Bob because he needed to have a name. We referred to him as a very mischievous ghost. The rooms would be empty, nobody even checked into them, and water would come on in either the sink or the shower. There were times like that I would get a chill because I was like, I know you're here."
Ew.
Hansen also recalled that she believed Bob or another hotel spirit got hold of her reading glasses. And on another occasion, she said that she heard what she would describe as a, quote, horrendous, blood-curdling scream
No.
come from the first floor hallway.
No.
On one occasion, a horrified woman complained to the lobby clerk that her husband, while showering, had turned around and encountered a young girl standing in the shower.
Oh my God. It's like the other hotel we talked about too.
He left a short while later, his suitcase packed in a hurry, and his hair still wet.
Okay, young girl, how old are we talking?
Child.
Oh.
So they
Was she clothed?
didn't go into detail.
Thank God.
He was freaked out
Yeah.
and left.
Good.
Like, returned the key, peace out. Which,
Oh my God, that's
blame
so
him.
terrifying.
Oh my God. Another guest, Ryan Belcher, who stayed at the hotel in 2018, recounted his haunted experience in a Google review of the property.
Oh.
He said, quote, "My girlfriend and I were unable to sleep both nights as we kept hearing footsteps outside our door. Plus, he said heard, I'm sure he meant felt, a presence in a room a couple of times. Sound of an old man moaning."
Well, then he would have heard a presence.
Yeah, but it just sounds weird. That's according to this review. According to Hansen, when the chalet was under renovations in the late 1990s, she heard reports of staff hearing marbles rolling down the stairs and a little girl's laughter.
Oh my gosh, we heard marbles when we were at Fairy Plantation House. We had some people upstairs in like the top room, and one of our groups was like, "Hey, we want you to prank the group downstairs." Not my group, a different group. They're like, "We want you to prank the group downstairs. Whenever they come up here, prank them somehow." So we switched rooms, they go upstairs, and at some point the guys upstairs yell, and we're like, "What?" And they're like, "I don't know, it sounds like marbles are rolling around." And the girls were like, "Thank you." But yeah, the marbles thing is really creepy.
Well, the little girl's laughter is what gets me.
That's also not something I want to hear.
Yeah. The then owners allegedly hired a member of the Blackfeet tribe to cleanse the lodge of its ghosts.
Oh.
I don't think it worked.
Oh. Bummer then.
She told the Daily Interlake, quote, "I never believed in that stuff before, but there's somebody still living at the Belton." So I also found a review from frightfind.com.
Okay, love it.
So this is what the person said. "In September 2009, my ex-husband and I stayed at the Belton Chalet for 10 days. The hotel was closed for the winter, and we were the last people staying there."
Ooh,
Right? "They moved us into the Lewis cottage for a couple of nights before we boarded the train to our next destination. We had a very strange experience while staying in the Lewis cottage. There was a strange presence there the first night, and while we were sitting in the living room, inexplicably, the fire extinguisher that was mounted on the wall fell off with a loud bang. A little time later, the door slammed. I would not have taken any of this as evidence of a haunting because both could have been explained away. But my then husband, who had a few drinks, jokingly said, 'If there is someone here, please knock.' We both jumped when we heard a very distinctive knock."
Oh no. That's like us with the candle.
Exactly. Don't ask questions you don't want to know the
Yep.
answer to. We were unnerved, but he asked another question to make sure we hadn't imagined it. Once again, we heard a knock in response.
Oh my gosh, it's such a smart ghost.
This happened 3 times. We didn't know what to make of it, and later when we went to bed, we both felt a strange presence in the room.
Are
The room became freezing cold, and we struggled to sleep. The
they
next
sure it
day-
wasn't the vent?
Shut up. The next day, we left for Whitefish. In conclusion, like I said, it was short.
That's okay.
Know before you go. If you hear bumps in the night while staying at a hotel, it could be an uninvited guest. Check reviews, not just for sanitary reasons, but for spiritual ones too. And that is the Belton Chalet.
Well, see, so Joe and I, we want to take a trip to like Montana, like somewhere up there and stay in like a cute little like hotel.
Well, apparently Glacier National Park, the whole shebang is like haunted.
Yeah, see, that's good to know because we wanted to find like a cute little place, like a little resort type of thing and like have the mountains and I wanted to go like horseback riding and do all that fun stuff. This place will not be on my list.
No, and like really just don't go to Glacier National Park because all the hotels there seem to be haunted
Yeah.
from what I found.
And there have been like quite a few deaths in the Glacier National Parks as well.
Well, it's a national park, so
That is true. So just more reason to just not.
probably not. You could stay outside of the national park and then go visit the park.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Because I would like to go to a lot of national parks.
Mhm.
Haven't been doing great on my list so far. I don't have a list. I've just gone to a couple. But when people have those water bottles where you like add stickers each time you go to a different national park, I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I want that, but I don't go to enough to do that.
Well, no time like the present.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Just don't go to this place because it's haunted.
Yeah, I'm not going to stay here at all.
Yeah. The more haunted hotels that we do, the more I'm like, I'm going to have to start checking.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. Like, if we ever get a hotel together, there's no way I'm going to be able to just book anything. Like, it's going to be like, hey, Mackenzie, here's the one I found. Take your reviews. Then we're going to have to type into Google, place, haunted, place, ghost stories.
This doesn't help because, like, the people who work there are like, oh, for sure, this place is haunted.
But see, I love that. I
mean,
love
I do
when
too.
people are like, it's haunted, like for sure haunted.
Yeah. And they do say there's about a mix of people. About half of them come just for the views, for the experience, whatever. And there are still some that come because they want an experience.
See, as much as I say I want an experience, I don't think I'd want any of these experiences. And I think in the moment, I wouldn't want any of those.
Correct.
Like when I'm staying in a hotel.
I'm so glad that you have finally come to this conclusion because this is where I have been sitting this whole time.
When I go to a hotel, I like the fact that I know it's not haunted.
Yeah.
And that I can go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and not be met with like a creepy figure in the shower or something.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I do the haunted stories because we cover all things.
Right.
I'm not into haunted shit.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
Yeah. I'd want to go to the lobby. Like, okay, when we went to Arkansas, we went to the Crescent Hotel. Crescent Hotel's super haunted. We didn't stay there. Our friends were staying there. But I walked in. They lean into their hauntedness. They have like ghosts everywhere. It's really cute. So I liked visiting and I liked going up to the room and seeing the room. But I liked not staying there and going back to our hotel, which was totally not haunted. It looked haunted. Because remember the video I sent you?
Oh my God. Yeah, it did look haunted as fuck.
I can't lie. That place looked really haunted.
That place was definitely haunted.
Totally haunted. Yeah, now that I think about it, it's kind of creepy.
Yep.
We were in Eureka Springs, so like the old part of Arkansas.
Eureka.
Yeah. It was such a cute little town though, but yeah. A lot of haunted things out there.
Yeah. Well, now we can cross this one off of our list.
We actually can, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stay here.
Yeah. So there you go.
Short but sweet.
Short but sweet. What's spooky to you, porn, Lauren?
So I got a murder.
Murder.
All right, I'm just going to dive in.
Please do.
The summer of 1993, before either of us were born.
Yes.
I like to remind Joe when I hear 1993, I was like, you were born and I wasn't. Does that make you feel old?
I was a concept.
In the summer of 93?
Yeah. My parents knew they wanted to have me by then.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
It was a concept.
Yeah. The summer of 1993 was coming to an end when Antoinette Bosco received a call that no family ever wants to receive. A sheriff in Montana was calling to tell her that her son and daughter-in-law had been found dead in their home.
Oh.
The case of the Boscos aired on Unsolved Mysteries October 21st, 1994. But their segment was slightly different as their murder had already been solved by the time the episode aired. But
interesting.
Why Unsolved Mysteries focused on it was due to one particular person who helped the case, a psychic who correctly described the killer.
Nice.
But first, who are Antoinette's son and daughter-in-law? Nancy grew up and worked as a model in Colorado. She eventually started working in sales when she met John Bosco. Bosco was going through a difficult time in his life when he met Nancy. He had just gone through a very messy divorce and was in the middle of a nasty custody battle for his 2 daughters. But Nancy was fun, outgoing, active, and beautiful. She also had a love for the outdoors, all things that immediately drew John in. It wasn't long after their meeting that they fell in love. They then got married in late 1990. The two loved the rugged beauty of Montana, and just 2 years after getting married, they decided they wanted to live there. So they planned to move to Ferndale, Montana, right on the outskirts of Big Fork.
Because they were in Colorado before? Okay.
They moved to Montana and started to settle in. John had hoped that eventually his custody battle would be over and he would have custody of his daughters who would come live with him and Nancy in their new home.
Fair.
The Boscos ended up purchasing their home from the Clark family. The Boscos had an in-home woodworking business, and this house, to their understanding, had been zoned to approve that.
I'm sorry. What? Sorry.
They had an in-home woodworking business.
Okay.
And the house they were buying was zoned to approve that. So property laws and zoning and all of that stuff, you need to be zoned for certain things. So technically,
To, like, run their business out of, like,
Yes.
officially?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they want to officially run their business out of the home, their home has to be zoned to be able to run a business.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, like, I learned all of this for my mom's nonprofit. They have to be zoned for if they can have people, like, living on the campus, and zoned for if they wanna sell food, and zoned if they wanna do these different things.
Okay.
Don't know how you get zoned, but you have to be zoned.
I was gonna say, when I think of zoned, it's like, I think of, like, areas.
Yeah, I
Like
think it's just, like, as a whole,
Okay,
but apparently, however this works, he's allowed to do his woodworking business in the house.
got it.
The house closed and all was okay for a bit, but it soon came to light that the house actually had not been zoned for a home business.
Mm,
This quickly became a point of contention between the old and new owners.
that'll get ya.
They were also having troubles with the neighborhood teens. Nancy had reported to police that teens in the area were harassing her at home. They would drive by and honk at her. They would also allegedly spy on her while she was sunbathing.
Ew.
And one of the Clark's children, the family who had sold the home to the Boscos, supposedly visited the Boscos' home while yelling obscenities at them from the road.
Look, I was sad when my childhood home sold too, but I certainly didn't do anything to the house.
You did not. We drove by it a couple times, because obviously.
Yeah, I wanted to, see.
Yeah.
They put, like, a random bench outside,
Oh, yeah, they did.
which was weird,
That was weird.
but I was like, "All right, go off."
To each his own.
I definitely wanted to see the inside, but that would be weird.
I wish it weren't weird to go up to
I
houses
know.
and be like, can I please just see the inside?
I tried to Zillow my house, but
Oh,
I couldn't.
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
The couple had a few other disputes arise while they were purchasing and settling into their new home in Montana. Nothing too big, nothing that
So-
was newsworthy.
Did it close already?
Yeah.
Like, everything was already settled, so,
Yep.
like, really they're kind of screwed?
Yep.
They can't get anything out of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
John also copped a felony forgery charge.
Wait.
But
What?
John got a felony forgery charge. That is hard to say. Felony forgery charge.
Felony forgery charge.
A forgery charge is a felony.
Yeah, again. Thank you for clarifying.
I could not find anything about this.
Yeah, that's so random.
I know. I tried to look everywhere because I'm like, a felony charge? Like, that's a big one.
What was he forging? Woodwork? Like, what?
I looked everywhere, could not find a single thing about it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So on August 19th, 1993, a neighbor of the Boscos noticed that the windows of their home were open. When she went to check on them, she noticed that their doors were also locked. So she called the police and requested a wellness check. Don't know why. There is a note.
Why would windows being open be skeptical?
I don't know.
Especially if it's like August?
Yeah.
Hmm.
There is a note that some speculate that she knew that John had an upcoming court date, which may have been why she was more urgent to check on the Boscos.
Well, that's a nice neighbor.
Yeah, very nice neighbor. Another source said that a wellness check was placed after calls to the Boscos from family members had gone unanswered. So either way, wellness check is placed. So
Okay.
a deputy from the Flatland County Sheriff's Department was dispatched to the Bosco home to check on it. The first thing he noticed when he arrived were newspapers piled up on the porch.
Oh, so a few days.
Mm-hmm. The deputy walked up to the front door and knocked, but there was no answer. So he rounded the house and found an open window to the basement. He also noticed something else. And I think the only window would have been the basement window being open.
So maybe it was like a weird random window.
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
Okay.
He also noticed something else. The telephone and power lines had been cut. The officer entered the house through the basement window, where he was met with an unpleasant smell in the air, almost like the smell of food in a refrigerator spoiling.
Anytime someone says basement window, I think of those teeny tiny
That's the exact thing I was thinking
and I was
of.
like, wow, what a slim pie.
That's the exact thing I was
But
thinking
I'm like,
of too.
it's got to be bigger.
It has to be,
It
unless
has to
he's
be
like
bigger.
a really fit cop. We don't
But
know.
even then, I'm like, you got to be short and tiny.
Yeah, and
I've
be
tried
able to,
climbing
like,
out one of those
squeeze.
windows.
Yeah,
It's not easy.
and then you need a ton of upper body strength if you're going to climb out of it.
yeah.
He doesn't, but
Well, no, I figured once he's in, he just
You
goes
have
through
the front
door.
as he climbed up the basement stairs, the smell only got worse. The officer also started to notice black flies buzzing around. He called out, no one answered, so the officer began to make his way through the house, calling out to the Boscos and still receiving no answers in response. Moving down the hall to the master bedroom, the smell of death and decay only continued to get stronger. Pretty sure about what he would find on the other side, the officer opened the bedroom door. Upon entering the bedroom, the police found the bodies of John and Nancy.
And this is still all on the first floor?
He went up the stairs, so yeah.
Okay.
John was found in bed next to his wife, Nancy. John's face was exposed, which made it very easy to see that he had been shot in the head with the bullet entering right above his eye.
Jeez.
Nancy's face was hidden under a pillow. One very strange thing was that John and Nancy were at different stages of decomposition.
Oh.
John was very decomposed, while Nancy was slightly less decayed. John's skin was already turning black at this point, while Nancy's appeared to be a bit more well-preserved. They believe the pillow on her face may have slowed down some of the decomposition.
I was just gonna ask, like
I did not go into that because it's gross.
yes, but I was thinking, I was like, no way was she been alive for, like, a few weeks beforehand. Because I feel like with decomposition, like, a couple of days wouldn't make that huge of a difference,
hmm
but, like, it would have to be weeks.
Yeah.
But this seemed, and I'm wondering too, I was like, body size, things like that, like, I wonder if that plays a factor too.
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe with it being August,
That yeah.
if there's like, oh, because the power would have been cut.
Right, yeah.
So no AC.
Yeah.
So heat speeds up decomposition.
Yeah, and if he's a bigger person
hmm
who holds more heat, I don't know.
Both Nancy and John were nude as well.
Nude.
hmm The officer slowly backed out of the room, walked to his cruiser, and called it in. Both were bruised as well, and it was determined that John and Nancy had been sitting for a week before they had been found.
Oof.
At first, police believed this to be a murder-suicide, as both John and Nancy had been shot in the head, but they weren't able to find any gun in the room. But they did notice that John's .357 Magnum was missing. It was later determined that this missing gun was not the murder weapon, as the two had been killed with a 9mm pistol.
So they were both shot.
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever get to the pillow and being over her face?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
And after analyzing the scene a bit more, the police determined that Nancy had been wounded on her cheek, shot in the back, and that her glasses broke after one of those shots. So police determined that John had been shot first in his sleep. The gunshot had woken up Nancy, who was then shot in the back as she tried to get up. She was then killed with a second shot that passed through her cheek,
Okay, that makes sense.
breaking the glasses.
Yeah.
Some sources described that there were other small items of the Boscos missing, while others claimed that nothing else other than the gun was gone.
Okay.
An unlocked window in the basement was determined to be the point of entry, and the telephone wire had been cut. The killer had also cut the power to the home, as the first responding officer noticed. So, like we had said.
I wonder, and maybe you'll get into it, but I'm wondering if he cut it so that they couldn't see him, or if he cut it thinking ahead of like, oh, this will cut the power, the AC.
We will get to it.
Okay.
Authorities in Montana had to call Antoinette Tony Bosco and tell her that her son John and his wife Nancy had been found dead. She immediately flew to Montana with John's two brothers. They somehow made it to the crime scene before it had been cleaned up. So the bodies had been taken away, but the actual aftermath of the crime hadn't been cleaned up yet.
What was it like messy? Like,
I mean,
like did it
shot in
look
the
like
head.
No, I'm sorry. But obviously the bodies, yes. But I mean like elsewhere in the house. Like,
Oh, no.
okay.
Mm-mm. All the bad stuff was confined to the room.
So like they saw like the bloody sheets and
Yeah.
Got it.
And on the walls and stuff.
Sure.
She later said, quote, "The first thing my sons and I did was go up to the stairs to the bedroom where our loved ones had been murdered."
Not me.
No. Big Fork, Montana is a small town. At the time of the murder, the town had a
That's ironic.
Yeah. Small Fork. So the town had a population that barely exceeded 4,000.
Damn. Small.
Yo. Because of that, the police department wasn't equipped to handle an investigation of this nature, so the jurisdiction fell on the state police, the Montana Division of Criminal Investigation, also known as the DCI.
Okay.
The police really thought this murder-suicide explanation was it, but when they weren't able to find a murder weapon, that theory fell apart.
And also, if we're looking at the decomp thing as like a tell of some kind, unless they think she murdered and then suicide, but typically it's the man.
Yeah, that is what they're thinking because of the difference of decomposition, but then it would be weird too, like why would you place a pillow over your own face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't shoot yourself in the back.
Correct.
So.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or he killed her, then shot himself, but put a pillow on her face first, and then, I don't know. We'll get into all of this stuff.
It just like, even just like the positioning of like where the bullets were, it wouldn't make sense.
Exactly why the theory fell apart.
Yeah.
So it had to have been a murder, obviously.
Sure.
So they started looking into what the motive would have been. And due to the nature of the crime, they thought it looked personal, so not a random attack. They decided to start by looking into anyone who may have had a grudge against the Boscos, and it turned out there were quite a few.
And I'm thinking too, like you hear about like when faces are covered up or things like that, it's like a sign of remorse. And so since her face was covered up, I'm wondering if it's someone like from her side.
Okay. Keep telling me your thoughts as they're popping into your head. I like hearing it.
Okay.
So the first obviously was John's ex-wife, who he was in the very bad custody battle with.
Right.
John and Nancy were murdered the day before they were planning on flying to Colorado to pick up his children.
So he did get custody?
I believe so. That's how it's sounding, or that they were going to come visit for a little bit or something, but somehow they were going to fly to Colorado and bring the kids back to Montana.
Okay.
This had come after a point where John had been, quote, disillusioned by the whole legal process and had moved the girls from Colorado to Montana without the approval of the court. So
Yeah,
this had resulted in a lawsuit
that's
where
not good.
John was mandated to return the girls back to their mother, who John claimed was abusive to the girls.
I'm pretty sure my parents, like, my mom moved 30 minutes away, and I'm pretty sure she had to get my dad's permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything I hear about that, it's like if you want to do anything, it's a huge deal to move.
Right. And it was in the same state.
Yeah.
Like, truly just 30 minutes away.
So the day after the murder, Nancy and John would be heading to Colorado to legally pick up his daughters and bring them back to Montana with them.
Yeah.
John's ex-wife had nothing good to say about him, but she did deny having anything to do with his death.
Was she in Colorado still?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And though she didn't like John, she said that she would never deprive her kids of their dad.
That makes sense.
Yep. John Bosco also appeared to be dealing with some stuff. He was
Oh.
known to be a combative individual who suffered from paranoia.
Hmm.
During his custody battle, he made allegations of corruption and conspiracy against the court officials in Boulder, Colorado.
I'm going to need you to go back for a second. Okay. I knew you said something. Can you go back to he took the kids illegally?
Mm-hmm.
And what were the accusations again? Did someone said he was abusive?
Oh, he said that his wife was abusive to the girls.
Oh, okay. That's what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So during his custody battle, he made allegations of corruption and conspiracy against the court officials in Boulder, Colorado, where his ex-wife and children lived, and that this is like the court they were doing all their family stuff through. So he's saying that there's conspiracy and corruption in the courts.
Do we know how old the girls are?
No.
Okay.
He even told many people that if anything were to happen to him, the court officials had caused it, implying that they would hire a hitman to silence him and Nancy, who were set on exposing the corruption that existed among the judges and lawyers in the area.
In a family court?
In Colorado.
Like a criminal court, maybe, but a family court?
Yeah, I would assume it's family court. I mean, I can't be 100% sure, but I would assume it's family court.
Yeah.
But this one was overall dismissed by DCI as they believed the crime had been committed by someone who was physically closer to home, not someone in Colorado.
Yeah, 100%.
This is when they started to look into the disagreements that the Boscos had been dealing with over the past 9 months that they've been living in their new home. So the police found a complaint that the Boscos had fired regarding local teenagers who were hiding in the bushes on their property to look at Nancy while she sunbathed on their deck.
I mean, that is problematic.
It is very problematic.
Yeah.
But this theory stopped right there and didn't pan out further.
Oh.
Don't know why, it just didn't pan out further.
Okay.
The police then looked into the Clark family.
I can't see if like they're putting a complaint against these teenagers, it escalating to, well, now I'm going to kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The police then looked into the Clark family, the family who had sold the home to the Boscos.
Okay.
So they had bought their home from a man named Joe Clark.
Mhm.
John had told family about the great deal he and Nancy had gotten and how he planned on running his woodworking business from their new property.
Never trust something that's too good to be true.
But soon after finalizing the purchase, John soon learned that wouldn't be possible as the house did not have commercial rights. So this made John angry, as according to him, he had specifically queried the seller about this issue and was assured that there wasn't an issue and that it would not be a problem.
See, to me, though, this is them against the Clarks, not
Right.
the Clarks against them. Okay, sorry.
He said that Clark had misled him.
Well, yes. But that, like, if the Clarks had died, I'd be like, oh, yeah, motivation.
Right. Well,
But, like, why would you want to hurt someone that's just mad at you?
so Clark denied this, saying that when they sold the home, they explained everything up front. So there really shouldn't have been a spat concerning the business owning. But either way, John sought legal advice.
Okay.
This dispute was still ongoing when the murders took place.
So thinking maybe he was trying to get out of a legal something?
Yeah, because
Okay.
John brought legal into it.
Okay.
Clark had motive, but the police thought he wasn't really the type. He was a well-respected local businessman who was active in the local church.
That means nothing.
I know, but in the 1990s it did. But either way, Clark was interviewed by police, though he was quickly dismissed as a suspect.
I just don't think there's enough motivation on his side.
Yeah, I don't think
Like
so either.
if it was the Clarks we were talking about, then I'd be like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's not, like, I just don't think there's enough motivation for it.
Right. They then looked into the forgery charge that John had. He was set to appear in court for that the day after he had been shot, but again, nothing more about this. It's just kind of an interesting fact.
So I
So
didn't know what he forged.
I know.
I'm like, is
for
it
a felony forgery
I'm like,
charge?
is it woodwork? Like, what?
I feel like it has to be something with the business.
Yeah.
But I have no idea, and I could not find a thing.
Interesting.
Even though police investigated each of these theories, nothing stuck, and they were no closer to finding out what had happened to the Boscos. So nothing was happening in way of the investigation, and Toni was getting frustrated. So she decided to take things into her own hands.
She.
Toni, Antoinette.
Oh.
Yeah, Antoinette, Toni, Bosco.
Okay, that makes sense.
So Toni decided to hire a psychic.
Nice.
She was hoping that psychic Danny and Brinkley would help provide new clues and insights.
What's the name?
Danian?
Okay, I thought for a second it sounded like Danny and.
No.
So I didn't know if it was two people.
Danian?
Okay. We'll
Brinkley.
call her Danny.
I'm calling him Brinkley.
Him Brinkley.
Yep.
Jeez, my pronouns are off.
I know. Mackenzie, stop assuming.
I'm so sorry.
So Brinkley was a known psychic who Danny hoped would help close this case for her son and...
You said Danny.
Yep, I know I did. Yep.
Okay.
Who Tony hoped would close this case for her son and her daughter-in-law's murders and help figure out what happened. So this whole psychic gift was given to Brinkley on September 17th, 1975. He was at home in Aiken, South Carolina, talking on the phone with his best friend, Tom Hall, when a storm passed overhead. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck him through the telephone line, sending at least 180,000 volts of electricity through his body.
Bro, when I tell you that I'm like, if I get struck by lightning and I don't get psychic powers or some sort of ability afterwards, I'm going to be pissed.
Yes.
Because I'm like, this is how it happens.
Uh-huh.
This is what occurs. You have to have some ability after you get struck by lightning.
And this is why they told you when there were landline phones, don't talk when there's a storm. That's why I still won't shower if there's a storm.
Yeah, showering is a little sketch.
Thank you. Everyone thinks I'm crazy.
I mean, the likelihood is slim.
It is slim, but it's possibility.
Yeah, but you like to look at possibilities of like, there's like a 0.1% chance. I know I can't talk because I do the same.
Yeah, exactly.
But in this situation, I'm not nervous, so I can give you shit.
So this bolt of electricity was so powerful that it left his shoes welded to the floor.
Damn.
Suddenly, Brinkley was floating above his body. He saw his wife and then Tom arriving, trying to resuscitate him. He claims that he was there floating above his body and above everything. He saw his life from his own perspective as well as from the viewpoint of the people he had bullied when he was young.
Aw.
He later said, quote, I start down this tunnel. I see what appears to be a form coming out of this beautiful misty blue. Then all of a sudden, I not only felt everything I'd ever done and saw everything I'd ever done. I became every person that I ever encountered. I felt the pain and the anguish and the anger and the frustration that I had caused these people.
Aw.
And you know, people don't realize that you judge yourself when this happens. You just judge yourself, and that's what I did.
As you kind of fucking should.
Brinkley was rushed to the hospital. While there in the emergency room, his breathing faltered, then stopped.
Oh.
He was pronounced dead, and his body was covered with a sheet.
Ooh.
But nearly 30 minutes later, while his friend Hall mourned his friend's death, Brinkley woke up.
30 minutes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He spent a
That's
week.
a long time.
That's a long time.
Like, that's brain damage long time.
Mm-hmm. But I guess in some cases,
Holy
it's
shit. And he
psychic
just...
abilities. He just popped up. He spent a week in the hospital recovering from the lightning strike and the coming back to life thing.
Yeah, that would be something to get over.
Yeah. He was hardly able to walk or talk. He had to constantly wear welder glasses because his eyes were very sensitive to light. He also began to experience vivid images of the future.
Oh.
While he was recovering, he received 117 predictions.
Oh.
He told his friends and family some of these future predictions. Some of the ones he had, which came true, were Ronald Reagan's presidency,
Interesting.
the fall of the Soviet Union, and the Gulf War of 1991.
Okay, see, here's the thing, though. When it comes to, like, political stuff and, like, stuff in the news, one could say you could deduce based on...
Right. Like, we know that, like, this big power is gonna fall.
Right. Like...
But the presidency and the Gulf War is interesting. Like, I mean, you can see wars coming, but, you know.
It depends on how early he predicted it. If he predicted it before Reagan even ran...
He predicted it in 1975.
Okay, then I'll give it to him.
Yeah.
Because Reagan didn't run till the 80s.
Yeah, so this happened in 1975, 1976-ish.
Oh, shit. Okay, I'll give him that one.
Yeah, and then the Gulf War was in 91.
I'll even give him the Soviet one, because that was, like, at least a decade off.
Okay.
Okay. There we go. Never mind. I take it back. Take it back.
He later told his friends about the visions, and they verified that he had predicted them before any of the events had happened.
Wow.
Brinkley believes that his near-death experience sparked his psychic abilities. He was even invited onto Unsolved Mysteries. This is, I think, before everything happened. Or maybe it was after. I can't give you the timeline for that. Maybe it was after everything.
Okay.
I don't know. Either way, they had parapsychologist Dr. William Roll test Brinkley. Brinkley gave readings to 8 people who he had never met before.
I don't know if you know the answer to this question. Is it like That's So Raven, where it like comes to her and she doesn't have control? You don't know.
We don't know. So according to Dr. Roll, I think for some things he's able to like see things.
Okay.
Because in this one, so according to Dr. Roll, Brinkley picked out several details about the lives of these 8 people that there was no way of him knowing. So he meets these 8 people and he's able to pick out details about all 8 of them.
Which is interesting because is that really predicting the future?
It's just he's psychic. So he has psychic abilities.
So psychic abilities is more than just seeing the future.
I think so, yeah.
It's like sensing who people are.
I think so. In his case, yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Roll described Brinkley as one of the more remarkable psychics he has ever worked with. Roll found Brinkley reliable in psychic premonitions and information. So there we go, psychic premonitions and psychic information.
All right.
So Brinkley met with Tony in November of 1993 and was able to provide her information about the Bosco's killer.
Okay.
He said that the perpetrator was 19 to 20 years old, male and skinny, though slightly built, with inset
He had to be
eyes.
skinny if he fits through that fucking window.
With inset eyes and black hair.
Inset? What does that mean?
Like kind of like deep eyes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
He said that the killer had
Like
been
Pete
in.
Davidson?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He said that the killer had been in the Bosco home before, which had given him a familiarity with it. He also said the killer had since left Big Fork to attend school out west.
You are west.
Out west from Montana. Because I thought of that too. I was like,
you're already in the west.
I was like, you are west. Yeah, so west of Montana.
Okay.
He said the killer had used the basement window to enter the house.
Mm-hmm.
He said the killer knew the Boscos and that his arrest would come in December of 1993.
Oh.
So the next month. Tony immediately turned to the police and relayed the information that Brinkley had provided, but they were uninterested in the psychic statements. Meanwhile, at George Fox University in Newberg, Oregon, so
west,
over 600 miles west of Montana, a boy told a friend something horrible. The friend, known as Bill, went and told his resident advisor, his RA, what he had just been told. He said, quote, "Shadow told me that he was fearful of getting..."
Who?
Shadow. Yep. Told me that he was fearful of getting caught for something worse than anybody's ever done. Then he said, "Don't tell anyone," and I asked him what he had done. He again told me not to tell anyone, and I asked, "What did you do?" He told me he had killed someone before he'd come to George Fox. Bill also said...
Killed someone's...
Yeah. Bill also said that this friend showed him a 9mm pistol that he claimed was the murder weapon.
And was it a 9mm?
Yep.
Okay.
The RA immediately contacted the police.
Yeah, don't tell people that shit.
What, that you murdered someone?
Yeah.
No, tell them so you can be caught.
Well, yes, but if you're trying not to be.
Yeah, we're not going to give advice to the bad people.
No, I know, but it's just...
Tell everyone what you did.
Right, and I get it. You got guilt, you got to tell somebody.
I don't think it was guilt. I think
like
it was more...
Oh, he was worried he was going to get caught. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
I think it was more kind of
Which is even
about
more
what he
stupid
did.
why you would tell someone if you're worried of getting caught. Why
He's a
let more people know?
He's a young boy.
That's true.
Their brains are not developed.
I mean,
at
it
this
was
age.
stupid in the first place just to murder someone. However,
Howsoever.
you're acting even more stupid.
So the boy's name was Joseph Shadow Clark.
A Clark.
A Clark.
Wait, Joseph. Son of Joe. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. He was a young male between 19 and 20 who was skinny with inset eyes and dark hair. He was going to school out west.
Was Shadow his given middle name?
I think it's his nickname because
Okay.
it was in quotes, but I don't call him Shadow because that's too cool and he doesn't deserve that.
100%.
So he happened to fit Brinkley's description to the letter.
Yeah.
And he went by Shadow, and like I said, he doesn't deserve to be called that, so he's going to go by Clark this whole time.
Okay.
The investigators traveled the 600 miles to Oregon to question Clark. He was pulled out of classes on the pretense of answering questions related to graffiti. But when he got to the interrogation room, he was shocked to see investigators from his hometown waiting to talk to him.
Uh-oh.
He was interrogated for 3 hours, and for the entire time, he kept denying that he had anything to do with the murders in Montana. He did say that he had told his friends the story, but that he was referencing the Bosco murders, but he claimed that he was just blowing smoke to impress his classmates. He hadn't really killed anyone. He said he was just repeating the information he had seen and read about in the news.
Who the fuck would ever be impressed by that?
Right. Like, oh, cool, you're a killer.
Like, maybe if you're in a gang.
Yeah, right.
But
3 hours was all it took. Clark started to tell the investigators about a dream he'd had. In his dream, he had broken into his childhood home and executed the occupants in their sleep. He then proceeded to have sex with a, quote, faceless woman.
Oh, my God.
Cops were shocked and they knew they had their man because Clark had just described the exact killing of Nancy and John. And the faceless woman was Nancy, who had a pillow over her face.
He put the pillow over there so he could sleep with her. That's so fucking disgusting.
Clark was asked by authorities if he owned a gun. Clark said he did, and when pushed a bit, he told authorities where they could find the weapon. It was at a friend's house in Kalispell, Montana. The gun was found and taken in as evidence where ballistics were run. It proved to be the murder weapon. Essentially, Clark was confessing to a double homicide and to an act of necrophilia.
Ew.
So about these dreams he said, so supposedly, these dreams that he had been having were so real to him that after carrying out the real murders, he was unsure as to whether he had dreamed at all or not. He said that on the day he committed the murders, that fateful day in August, Clark had said that his dreams were so strong, and in them, a voice had urged him to visit the Bosco home. He did what the voices told him to do. He went to the house, cut the power and telephone lines, then entered the house through the basement window. He crept along the familiar hallways until he reached the master bedroom.
That's why he's been in there before, because he used to live there.
And that's why you can cut the power. No one's going to see you, but you know that house.
Yeah.
Like, I could go through my parents' house, like my childhood home, eyes closed, and tell you where everything is.
Yeah.
In their bedroom, Clark...
I could too.
Yeah, you could. Then in their bedroom, Clark shot John and Nancy in cold blood. Friends of Clark said that before...
I bet he put the pillow because she was shot through the cheek.
Maybe. That's a very good point. Friends of Clark said that before the murders, he had been telling them about strange dreams he had been having that involved murder and sexual assault. The dreams also involved sex with a faceless woman. He was arrested on December 7th and returned to Montana to speak with police more about the Bosco case.
December.
And just like Brinkley had said, in December of 1993, authorities contacted Toni, telling her that they had made an arrest in the murder of her son and daughter-in-law.
That's crazy.
So, and more on Brinkley being right. So not only was his physical description and location of Clark correct, but Clark also knew the Boscos because his family had sold the couple their new home, which had been Clark's childhood home. So, of course, he knew the layout, which explains how he would have been able to move around in the house after cutting the power. He was also one of the teens who had been harassing Nancy Bosco right around like when they had moved in. So
it did escalate to murder.
Yeah. The arraignment for Clark's trial took place on December 22nd, 1993, with District Judge C.B. McNeil presiding over the case. At the arraignment, Clark pled not guilty to the 2 murder charges and aggravated burglary charge that he had been tried for. So with that, a pretrial date was then set for January 12th, 1994. Clark's attorney, Steve Nardi...
You were cooking.
I was cooking. I was almost born.
I wasn't cooking yet.
He'd be cooking in a month. On a very special holiday.
Shut up.
Clark's attorney, Steve Nardi, asked for a continuation in order for Clark to undergo a psychological evaluation before the trial date.
I was wondering about that.
Judge McNeil allowed the pretrial date to be pushed back to March 16th, after I was born, so that Clark's psych evaluation could take place beforehand.
You were 10 days old.
Oh.
It's shit like that, though, that like really fucks with my head with time.
2 weeks old, March 16th.
Yeah, I know. I said...
You said 10 days.
I don't know why I said that.
I don't know either.
It really fucks with my head thinking like your parents are celebrating that they just had a newborn baby.
I know.
And on the other side of the country
is
another set of parents going through this awful time.
I know.
It's just
it's so
crazy.
Mind-blowing.
I just can't.
So I also tried to look into the psych evaluation. Couldn't find anything about that either.
I feel like that's huge. You're saying you have these dreams and then you acted on it and didn't know the difference between dream and real life.
Yeah. Couldn't find anything about that.
That's crazy.
But he eventually pled not guilty to his charges, but eventually changed his plea and pled guilty to 2 charges of deliberate murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary. He also admitted
Maybe that's why we don't know the outcome of the...
It could be.
Yeah.
He also admitted that he, quote, may have touched Nancy after the crime, but nothing came from that either. Yeah.
Did they even check?
I don't know.
Especially if they were found nude.
Right.
And did he ever address why he took the husband's clothes off?
Not that we found. I didn't really get much about his trial.
Because there seems like a lot of things he did deliberately.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it was all deliberate.
Right. Like you took the time to take the clothes off, do some nasty shit. That can't be not in your right mind.
Right. Like, you knew what you were doing. You cut the power lines. You climbed through the basement window. Like, you were very aware of what you were doing. I wonder if he pled guilty so he didn't have to explain himself because it was icky. Honestly, maybe. Like, it didn't... If you're pleading guilty, you're not going to trial.
Well, and the other thing, too, I feel like it's natural that when you find a body that's nude, you look for assault.
Yeah. Especially, and I'm not saying it's just with women, but especially with women.
Right.
You're going to look at that to see if there's been any assault.
And it doesn't sound like they did.
It doesn't sound
We
like
didn't know about it until he admitted it.
Right.
Interesting.
And he even said he may have.
Right.
So he was sentenced to 220 years, but
Damn.
his sentence was later reduced to 150 years. He would also be unable to be paroled until he was at least 60.
Hmm.
He would have gotten the death penalty had it not been for Tony Bosco, who opposed the option.
Oh, right. Sorry. I keep forgetting that Tony's the mom.
Yeah. She said, quote, "Now I am free enough to pray for Shadow Clark, hoping he will one day be able to respond to the touch of grace we are all given by God and find redemption. His act of killing reinforced my commitment to affirming life and forever my opposition to the death penalty." So I read a whole thing she wrote. It was like a long, I think she has a book, and this was like a long excerpt from the book.
Mhm.
And so it was pretty much saying how she's like, I used to think that that's what I would want, but then I don't want other parents to feel the pain of losing their
I
kid.
think that's fair.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So to this day, Clark has given no other motivation for the killing and remains incarcerated at the Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge.
Deer Lodge. We've talked about that.
I think we have too.
We've talked about that prison.
I think we have, yeah. So to close this and add some like levity. Okay.
Add
So-
some what?
Levity.
Levity?
Yeah, like positiveness.
Oh,
I looked up the word too to make sure I was using it correctly, and I was.
I just never heard it in that context.
So I used the Crescent, a student newspaper at George Fox University, where Clark went,
Okay.
for some of my notes.
Okay.
It helped give like kind of a recap. It was like a newspaper article.
Mhm.
It was the January 14th, 1994 edition. At the top of page 2, there was a take a stand section where there is a question and people answer it with their opinion.
Okay.
The question was Bobbitt justified in her action?
Was what?
Was Bobbitt justified in her actions?
Bobbitt?
This, of course, is talking about Lorraine Bobbitt, who cut off her husband's penis
Ow!
on June 23rd, 1993.
In Virginia.
Oh! Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in Manassas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this question is asking, was she justified in her actions?
Probably.
And we have 4 people who gave us answers.
Okay.
So Jeremy G said, quote, "She was justifiable to an extent. She was a little extreme. No wife should take that abuse."
Okay.
Sally J said, quote, "I think that if he did it, sure, it's justified, but maybe there were alternatives to the solution. Maybe she could have done something else."
Maybe.
Ryan W said, "I do not believe Lorena Bobbitt was justified in hacking her husband. He was not guilty of rape according to the judicial system. And I don't think we need vigilante wives parading around American streets."
Okay. Fuck that guy.
We don't like Ryan W. He looks like your typical run-of-the-mill white dude who has all the white privilege.
And where's my fucking... I want to look up to see if we're right that she was in Virginia before we act all high and mighty like we know that. I feel like we were just talking about it, though.
While you're looking up that, I have an interesting fact. There's this thing called the Bobbitt shrimp or the Bobbitt something. It's like this animal that lives in the...
Worm?
Yes, the Bobbitt worm. And it can bite things in half. And it got its name from Lorena Bobbitt.
Manassas, Virginia.
Manassas, Virginia. There we
Manassas,
go.
Virginia.
Okay, so then finally we have Jenny P.
Okay.
Who said, quote, "I think her actions were justified because men are pigs and they deserve that. Just cut off the main source of the problem." We
Hold
love
on.
Jenny. So yeah, I wanted to end with that because there's an article and I thought it was very interesting. But there you have it.
And it brings it back home.
It brings it back home.
Yeah.
Literally. So a murder case that could have been solved a bit earlier had the authorities listened to a psychic. Thankfully, it was all solved in the end.
What it's crazy, though, is that, like, it's like he also knew they weren't going to listen, which is why he said December.
Yeah.
You know?
He was like, yeah, he'll be arrested in December. How wild.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, very, very sad, obviously.
Of course.
They're getting as much justice as they can be getting.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought it was very interesting with the little psychic angle.
That is an interesting angle.
Yeah.
I think that's so fascinating when stuff like that happens.
Yes.
I understand the skepticism because unfortunately,
Oh, 100%.
just like anything, there are crooks and cons and things like that.
And there are ways to see things. Like one person commented, because I read something on Reddit, and one
Mhm.
person was like, I could figure out something. He's like, he just like kind of brought up, like, do you know the show Psych? I think I'm thinking of the right thing. Where one guy is very, very observant. So he can see things that make it seem like he's psychic because he's picking up on little details.
Yeah.
So one guy in the comments was like, I could create a crime and tell you who the perpetrator was based on the things that I'm seeing that other people won't pick up on. So
and that makes sense.
It makes ton of sense. But I mean, figuring out the age, like all of that stuff,
the arrest,
the build, where they were from, that they moved out west to go to school, when they're going to be arrested, like those things are pretty big.
Yeah. Like there's a couple of things like knowing the house probably common sense.
I mean, maybe though.
Right. But I mean, like, it kind of makes sense, like, given that, like, the lights were off.
The power was cut.
Right.
They said that the brutality of the murdered had to have been someone who knew them.
Right.
So things like that. But then there are still things like the arrest and other things like that where it's like, there's no way he picked up on these things.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so that was Montana.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild.
I
Really
love
cool,
psychic
though.
things.
Really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah. So, got the best of both worlds. Haunted and murder.
And we love it. Well,
Nobody's perfect.
nobody's perfect. We got to work it
Again and again.
till we get it wrong. All right.
Right.
Till we get it right.
Till we get it right.
Mackenzie, nobody's perfect.
Yes.
Like and review us on all the things. Follow
Yes.
us everywhere.
Do all the things.
Do all the things.
Yeah.
So stay scary.
And stay safe. Whoa, 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 yeah.